10 reasons why electric cars still suck. Hey everyone, and welcome to the automotive class. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 10 reasons why electric cars still suck. I know what you're thinking. Electric cars are the future. They're zero emissions, and they're good for the environment. And while there's a lot to be said for electric cars, there are still some downsides that we need to consider. In today's video, we're going to be discussing range anxiety, charging problems, the environmental impact lie, the burning issue, electricity taxes, price and longevity, infrastructure woes, stagnation, performance problems, and EV owners. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of the potential drawbacks of electric cars, and you'll be able to make a more informed decision about whether or not they're right for you. So without further ado, let's get started. Electric cars and their place in the automotive industry is one of the hottest topics of our times. As a planet, we're emerging from more than 100 years of burning gasoline, which has worked wonders for us so far. Without fossil fuels and natural gas, the second industrial revolution would not have happened, and we'd still be stuck with coal-powered everything. The gas-powered vehicle will go down in history as one of the most important inventions the world has ever seen. Still, oil is finite, and the vast majority of scientists agree that we need to cut down on greenhouse gases and lower our carbon emissions. That's where the electric vehicle comes in. As a concept, electric cars are a great idea. They don't need a complex internal combustion engine, have fewer running parts, and emit no greenhouse gas whatsoever. But that's just the concept. Reality is a little different, and it would only be too easy to think of 10 reasons why gas cars are better than electric vehicles. But that would be narrow-minded, because we firmly believe there is room for both. In a perfect world, we'd have a Kia EV9 for all the mundane weekly tasks and a Porsche 911 for the weekend. ICE vehicles remain relevant, no matter what fervent EV owners say. But just like an ICE vehicle has its downsides, there are multiple downsides of electric cars. With that in mind, let's look at 10 reasons why electric cars are bad, starting with the most obvious reasons and working our way up to more complex and subjective arguments. Range anxiety. The average range of an electric vehicle in the USA is nearly 300 miles, much higher than the global average of roughly 200 miles. But this average is not fully representative because the average price of an EV is also much higher in the USA. More on that later. If we isolate models below the average price of a new car, we can see that cheaper electric cars offer less range. Due to limited model options, the range available in the more affordable segments is closer to the global average. Range remains one of the main disadvantages of electric cars. To get your hands on a vehicle with more than 500 miles of range, you'll need to spend more than $100 on a Lucid Air Grand Touring. 2 charging problems. To understand charging problems, we first need to explore the ideal setup. In a perfect world, you'd have a home with a level 2 charger where you can charge an EV overnight. You'd use your electric car like you use a phone. You never let it run down to zero, and you charge it at times when electricity is at its cheapest, so it has less of an impact on your electricity bill. But, as we said, this is the perfect setup. The reality is that one of the main cons of electric cars is that a large chunk of the population doesn't have a garage, especially those who live in cities. You're limited to the existing charging network if you park on the street. While fast chargers will top a modern EV up in 30 minutes or less, you lose out on some of the leading EV benefits, like cheaper electricity rates during off-peak hours. 3. The environmental impact lie. The zero-emission lie is likely the main reason why EVs are bad. The zero tailpipe emissions claim is valid, but you must also account for the other damage an electric vehicle does. And we're not talking on a macro level. An electric car uses regular tires, and tires are a big polluter, especially for heavy cars that wear out their rubber more quickly. On a much larger level, we have to look at electricity generation. Unless your EV connects directly to a solar, wind, or hydro-powered station, it's having an environmental impact. Most of America's electricity comes from natural gas, nuclear, and coal. An EV's environmental credentials mean nothing when you still have to burn coal to run it. 4. The burning issue. EVs are not a bigger fire risk than gasoline-powered cars. It has been disproved many times over, even if you factor in the smaller pool of electric vehicles. The main issue is fighting an EV fire. The known and readily available methods for fighting fire don't work. You literally have to drown an EV to stop it from burning, and even that doesn't always work. In most cases, the fire department will douse an EV and keep it separated from other cars for a few days after the fire. EVs burn so fiercely because of thermal runaway. One cell catches fire, and then there's no stopping the blazes until the entire thing burns out. The most basic method for fighting fire is to cut oxygen, but since a car's battery is a self-sufficient source of oxygen, it doesn't work. Electricity taxes. At the moment, electric vehicles are still pretty nifty regarding taxes. The government will give you up to $7,500 if you buy the right electric car. These government incentives are a great way to get people to adopt electrification, but one could argue that governments shouldn't get involved in private enterprise. If that were the case, at least 50% of automakers would have died out during the Great Recession. Fair is fair, and all that. Price and longevity. The average price of a new EV is currently around $64,000. The average purchase price of a new car, all cars, including electric vehicles, is $48,000. As you can see, there's a massive gap, and not even the Inflation Reduction Act's contribution helps. With $20,000 new cars no longer being a thing, the new affordable mark is roughly $25,000. At that price, there aren't many EVs to choose from. If you live in the right state, you could get a Tesla Model 3 at that price. Your other options are the Chevrolet Bolt or Nissan Leaf. Manufacturers are on a mission to introduce more affordable models, but way more expensive models are coming through. What the world needs is the EV equivalent of the Toyota Corolla. Affordable, reliable, and perfectly fine to get passengers from point A to point B. Nothing more, nothing less. Infrastructure woes. This has become less of a problem now that Tesla appears to have won the charging wars. The NACS plug will likely be the standard going forward, giving more people access to Tesla's remarkable charging stations. And, thanks to the government, billions will be spent expanding the grid. But even considering all of this, we still see some problems in the future. In high-density areas, supercharger stations are often flooded during peak hours. The average time spent at a charging station is also much higher than the average gas station, where you pull up, fill up, and bail. Stagnation. Several manufacturers are still investing in combustion, hydrogen, and synthetic fuels. But these automakers are in short supply. For the most part, automakers have accepted the cards politicians have dealt them. This may lead to stagnation and a lack of innovation, though Hyundai is doing the most to make its electric vehicles enjoyable. One of our biggest fears is the standardization of the EV skateboard, which leaves little room for engineers to play around. The battery will be located on the floor, and you'll have a single dual, tri, or quad motor setup. 9 performance problems. Most electric vehicles are one-trick ponies. Note, we say most because there are exceptions like the Navara, Battista, and on the lower end, the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Thanks to that well-known instant torque delivery, EVs are stupid fast in a straight line. But going from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2 seconds gets old quite quickly. If anything, we enjoy the acceleration from 50 to 70 miles per hour even more. 10 EV owners. Electric car owners are one of the main reasons electric cars are bad. Nobody likes a smug person, and people don't want to be told what to do. Not all EV owners are bad. Some buy an EV for the same reasons we would, because a Mini Cooper electric hardtop is the most fun and efficient way to complete a 50-mile commute. It's as simple as that. But it gets annoying when EV ownership becomes cult-like, and we all know who we're talking about. Tesla fanboys are the worst, and their silly antics have led to several people disliking an EV based purely on not wanting to be associated with other owners. For the record, we 100% believe there are reasonable Tesla owners out there. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more great automotive content. And remember, before we rush headlong into an all-electric future, it's important to carefully consider all of the potential risks and consequences. Let's not make the switch to electricity for the sake of making the switch. Let's make sure it's the best decision for our environment, our economy, and our society as a whole.